IZZY versus DDP is a much closer matchup than people are giving it credit for being. One of the bigger things for me is we haven't seen IZZY fight anyone with Dricus's gas tank who pushes a pace as hard as Dricus does, except for maybe, Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland is low output compared to DDP. So there's this misconception, and I'm going to talk about this in a later video too, that DDP has a horrible gas tank, you know what I mean? He gasses out super quickly. People were saying this going into the Whitaker fight and into the Strickland fight. There's less people talking about it after seeing him go 5 hard rounds with Strickland, but I've been saying this for months. I wish I had a channel before. DDP's gas tank is super underrated. Like, look, people credit his gas tank because he got his nose fixed. It's like, no, it was always pretty good. He just has a weird style, a Hamzat type style, where he puts everything into every shot, every takedown. He constantly moves forward. He'll take one to give one, right? And he just throws the kitchen sink at you, trying to knock you out, trying to submit you, and that obviously is gonna tire him out, but it also tires you out, defending all of these punches coming in and defending off the takedowns and submissions. And Dricus is a huge, jacked guy, right? He's probably on sauce, let's be real. And, it's tiring defending all these punches, takedowns, and submission threats. And so what we find is after round 1, people with great gas tanks like Whitaker, are more tired than Dricus. Like, they're tired. Dricus is also tired, but Dricus is more used to kind of, fighting in the fire. He's more used to that pace. And so he's able to rally better. He feels more comfortable there than all of his opponents do. The reason why Strickland was so successful against him is because Strickland has great defense, and he was just staying behind his jab the entire fight. Like Dricus, if you watch that fight, Dricus was throwing way more output than him. He was throwing big overhands and head kicks and shooting powerful takedowns and stuff. And Strickland, for the first couple rounds, was basically just throwing a jab. And by the end of the fight, Dricus was still pushing that same pace, and they were about the same amount of tired at the end of that fight, even though Dricus had thrown the way harder shots constantly throughout the entire fight. Well, Strickland, for a lot of the fight, was just jabbing, just because Strickland wasn't used to that crazy pace that Dricus pushes. So I feel like if IZZY doesn't knock him out early, we might see IZZY gas out under that Dricus pressure, or at the very least, we're gonna see IZZY looking a lot more depleted. You're gonna, Joe Rogan, man, IZZY looks off tonight. I wonder if it was like, no, man, Dricus he just pushes a crazy pace. It's crazy. I bet you in round 2, the commentators are gonna be talking about, man, Dricus is breathing heavy. What they don't talk about is, yeah, he's tired, but his opponent's just as tired, if not more tired. Also, another thing that I want to bring up is no one seems to get why Strickland was so successful in their fight. In Strickland's fight versus IZZY, I mean. When he fights guys like Whitaker, Vettori, Pereira, IZZY likes to use head movement, he likes to be slick, and these guys all kind of overextend, trying to hit him, and IZZY just gets barely out of the way. Like in the Vettori fight, Vettori would throw 3, 4, 5, 6 punches. IZZY would just be right out of range for basically every single one. In the Whitaker fight, Whitaker used the karate blitz. He'd blitz in, throw like a 3-punch combination and a head kick, and IZZY would just be right out of range. In the Pereira fight, even there was moments where Pereira would throw a head kick or throw a left hook right out of range, and IZZY would just not be there to be hit. Versus the Strickland fight, no matter what, Strickland, all he did is that jab, the 2, and a teep, right? He never overextended. Even when IZZY was kind of baiting him in, to throw more volume, Strickland just jab, right hand, teep, the whole time. And it never really gave IZZY any openings to counter. That's why IZZY seems so lackluster, I think, in that fight is because Izzy was waiting for Strickland to overextend so he could counter, like how he knocked out Whitaker, how he knocked out Pereira, right? He was waiting for that opening, and it just never came because Strickland is so tight. You know, he just sticks to his game plan, which is walk forward, throw teeps, and throw a 1-2. And that's all he does, right? After that fight, you know, people really started to say, man, Izzy's boxing sucks. Izzy has horrible boxing. I honestly think that Izzy's boxing is underrated at this point because the amount of people that say that, oh, all you have to do is close the distance. You know, it's like, no. You can't just close the distance. You have to be incredibly safe because Izzy does like to lean back and throw these big winging hooks, and they look kind of silly, but I mean, it knocked out Whitaker. You know, he knocked out Pereira with basically what was an overhand, you know what I mean? And so I'm really interested in this fight because I want to see how Dricus approaches it. If we see the Dricus that fought Strickland, that walks forward and throws these big winging overhands, I think he's going to get knocked out because that's the exact type of opponent that Izzy likes to fight against. It's people that overextend, throwing big winging, you know, big meaty ones, right, basically, and, you know, where he can get right out of the way and then counter. And so, what I would like to see from Dricus, game plan wise, if he's smart, is he'll be very tentative on the feet. You know, just throwing combinations that are super tight, 1 or 2 punches at a time, and then having a very grappling heavy approach, where he's shooting lots of these hard takedowns, at least for the first 3 rounds. Because after 2 rounds, Izzy doesn't really knock you out. You know what I mean? Izzy kind of surrenders himself to leg kicks and jabs. So if we can see Dricus wrestle early and frequently and not give Izzy anything to counter on the feet, then I think Dricus should be victorious. I think that he'll win if that's his game plan. If Dricus goes in trying to knock him out from the jump, I think he's going to get KO'd. And I just wanted to talk about that. I think this is a super interesting fight.